You got it locked on the mandatory. If you like the content, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. If you've already been rocking with the show, we do appreciate you. You can also find us on the audio side. And if you do, remember to leave a rate and review. Give us a 5-star. Lots to get into in the boxing world. Some news is bubbling, but most importantly, we got another fight. And what has kind of been the epicenter of fights recently, Saudi Arabia, Anthony Joshua, Francis Ngannou. This is going down officially March 8th. And the undercard is actually pretty dope as well. But Brian, we saw Francis Ngannou fight pretty well against Tyson Fury, who a lot of people said probably didn't train for it all the way through for those 8 weeks. This is a fight, though, that we're getting against AJ. Are you excited for this fight? Do you think there's an appetite for it?
I mean, considering that we were talking about this after he beat Otto Wallin to end the year. And one of the guys that I floated out there was he could fight Francis Ngannou. I said it literally like that. Francis Ngannou tweeted it out after the fight. That they could get it on, whatever. And I was like, listen, if Anthony Joshua is looking for a money fight, this is probably the route to go. If Anthony Joshua is looking for an eventual world heavyweight title fight, I think fighting a guy that he should beat, that knocked down the heavyweight champion of the world, probably a smart business move, considering that I believe the WBC has Francis Ngannou ranked after that performance, which, the sport is the sport. And then we have the element of, Saudi Arabia putting on all these big fights. Now, I have questions about, as I was saying on the audio piece of this, the viability of that long term. I feel like this is, again, one of these things that's a very interesting short-term money play that we tend to see again and again, not just in sports, but in the world. And I'm not sure about the staying power of it. But for now, all the big fights seem to be going there. And it kind of is what it is. In terms of the actual fight, I mean, I think Anthony Joshua is going to beat his ass. I don't think Anthony Joshua is going to train, haphazardly like Tyson Fury did. I think because Tyson Fury clearly watched the fight. Francis Ngannou even knows, he didn't take him that seriously. And Tyson Fury weighed, I believe, his heaviest ever for a fight, or at least up there. I think Francis Ngannou is going to train hard. And, I'm not going to say he can't give Anthony Joshua some problems, because I've been critical of Anthony Joshua before, with love, of course. And I just think Anthony Joshua is somebody who is going to train hard for this, because he doesn't want to get embarrassed like Tyson Fury kind of was. And I think he'll dismiss Francis Ngannou. And ultimately what's going to be a captivating fight, if nothing else.
It's early over here, if you're wondering why that took me so long to unmute my mic. But I was going to say, I said when Francis Ngannou kind of shook Tyson Fury in that fight, I was like, we're going to get a bunch of stupid fights now. We're going to get a bunch of stupid fights that we don't really want to see. But this is a money grab, right? Like, he's going to stay busy while he eventually, hopefully, ends up getting the winner of Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk. But this is another stupid fight. Why is Francis Ngannou ranked? I get it. I'm happy that he's getting the bread. That's what I'm happy for most for Francis Ngannou, because he deserves it. So I'm all for that part. I don't care about this fight. I could care less. What does this do for Anthony Joshua? Ooh, if he does. Right, because AJ's been in some situations where you're like, yo, you know what I mean? He lost to Andy Ruiz, then he goes and he has a dud performance, lost to Alexander Usyk twice.
Yeah.
And this is a guy, don't get it twisted. I always say that Anthony Joshua has the best heavyweight resume, but this is a fight that I don't care about. Why do I want to see Anthony Joshua in the ring with Francis Ngannou? What does that do for me? Nothing. And this is every time a guy steps into the boxing ring, regardless, he's putting his life on the line. Why is he putting his life on the line and getting more mileage on his body against Francis Ngannou? I know Deontay Wilder lost, but I'd rather see him and Deontay Wilder get it on. What would you rather see, Francis Ngannou or Deontay Wilder? I think, but the thing is, AJ still brings in a lot of money.
Sure,
he's that guy in the UK. Still, people love him.
But I think Francis Ngannou kind of won, given that he knocked down Tyson Fury.
Yeah, I get that. Okay, great.
The intrigue is there. Yeah.
Okay, dope. That happened, but still, I don't care. We all know that didn't look like the Tyson Fury that we know. to Francis Ngannou when he walked out. I was like, oh snap. Came out with Lastal Bender and Kamaru Usman, and I was like, yo, I'm rocking with Francis Ngannou right now, right? But I just don't care for this fight. It's like another stupid fight. There's a better fight on this card, Zhilei Zhang versus Joseph Parker. That's the one I want to see, because I think Zhilei Zhang can get it on with anyone. In fact, I would love to see Zhilei Zhang and Anthony Joshua. I think that's a better fight than Anthony Joshua and Francis Ngannou. Of course, people are going to run to the TV for this. And I think a lot of people are actually going to place their money on a guy like Francis Ngannou. I think I might even place some dollars on Francis Ngannou. I got to watch this, right? But this is not a fight that I'm necessarily interested in. I think it's a stupid fight. I want to see the best names in the sport fight the best fighters. And I know Deontay Wilder looks like father time caught up to him, but that's still a fight that I think would make a lot of money, that would generate a lot of attention. But they're going to go with Francis Ngannou. Ngannou's going to make a lot of bread. I'm happy for that, but this is just not the fight I want to see. But Zhilei Zhang and Joseph Parker, that's a banger right there. And I think that one is the one that should be the main event. If I'm being honest with you, that one should get more attention, Bryan. So I'm not looking forward to this fight. I could care less. Am I going to watch it? Yes. And I'll probably place some bread on Francis Ngannou because, I mean, why not?
Francis Ngannou, according to BoxRec, 33rd ranked heavyweight in the world out of 1,427, which is very high. Yeah, I think Anthony Joshua has the potential to like just end this sort of hype train, and we'll see if Francis Ngannou surprises and has another moment or two in this fight, which I'm not discounting. I think he could actually have a couple moments because he's not nobody, right? He is somebody who's trained in boxing for a while, former UFC heavyweight champion, different thing. And, you know, he does have power, if nothing else. And power in the heavyweight division, sometimes is all you need. I still think Anthony Joshua was just all around better. Like, he clearly went out to make a statement against Otto Wallin, which left me feeling bad for Otto Wallin, who I thought could have been competitive in that fight. And he was not. Anthony Joshua was like, no, get the fuck out of here. I am, you know, having switched trainers again. I'm going to go out here and handle my part of the business that Deontay Wilder failed to do, which brings me to this. I think that Anthony Joshua wins this fight if Francis Ngannou is decent enough, if he just doesn't get disposed of in the first round. And even if he does, I think this actually sets up for Deontay Wilder versus Francis Ngannou. I think Francis Ngannou could lose this fight and still get one more big money boxing fight. And that should be against Deontay Wilder for obvious reasons. I mean, Deontay Wilder is somebody that maybe Francis Ngannou could even win rounds against, and I still think it won't matter, assuming that he could still find it. I think that if he loses this fight, that's probably the next logical bout. And then if he loses that one, I'm not sure where the boxing career goes from that point, right?
I think if Deontay Wilder was to lose that one, or are you talking about Francis Ngannou?
Yes.
Who?
Who what?
What happens to his career? You just said, I don't know where his career goes. Were you talking about Francis or are you talking about Deontay?
No, I was talking about Francis.
Okay.
Because if you lose to Anthony Joshua, which I think he will, and then I think the logical next thing for the Saudis to do is have Deontay Wilder fight Francis Ngannou. And if Deontay Wilder knocks out Francis Ngannou as he should, you know, Joseph Parker's one thing. But
you know what? Francis Ngannou looks a little bit, after that Deontay Wilder performance, I kind of give a little bit of the edge to Francis Ngannou because you're only better than your last performance, right? And Francis Ngannou looked Francis Ngannou looked good, man. He looked good. And I think that's a fight, unless Deontay Wilder, it is going to be a money grab. However, if Deontay Wilder was to lose that fight, then what would he do? He would just sail off into the sunset, and then we see him fight, I don't know, Jake Paul next or something like that. Right? Like that's what is happening here, Bryan. This is what's happening. And maybe in 5 years, when Francis gets a little bit older, then he'll fight Jake Paul. Like this is what's happening right now. And maybe I sound like a boxing purist, but I don't like seeing these fights. You know, I'll watch it because it's entertaining, but I do like Francis Ngannou. He's not a nobody. I mean, this guy's an absolute legend. That's why I like that he's getting the bread. But imagine he just fought Tyson Fury. Then he's going to fight Anthony Joshua. Then maybe he fights Deontay Wilder. What if he goes 0-3? And I'm like, yo,
As
we
he
just,
should. He probably
yeah,
should be
we're
0
just
3
seeing
after that.
Francis Ngannou go 0-3. And hey, man, if he's going to make the bread, I'm all for it. But it's just not something I care for. But let us know here at the Mandatory. We want to know if you care. We don't want to hear me sit on this show talk about how I
Yeah,
don't
they're
care
gonna be
about
on
this
your
fight.
ass.
I don't care though. Like, I'm sorry. I'd rather see something else. I'd rather see something else. And one of those fights is Zhilei Zhang and Joseph Parker. Also Ray Vargas, Nick Ball on that card as well. Ray Vargas, an interesting name on this card because, listen, we haven't seen Ray Vargas do anything since he got upset, if we're going to keep it real here. Right, his name has kind of gone under the radar, and this was supposed to be that dude. I had him winning against O'Shaquie Foster. I was completely wrong. And O'Shaquie Foster is going to be fighting next month in your city, Bryan. But what else do you think about this card? And are you intrigued more about the undercard than the main event, or are you just kind of like?
I mean, from an entertainment perspective, I would say Joshua Ngannou has more theater to it, right? From a purist perspective, from a competitive perspective, like no, Zhilei Zhang, Joseph Parker is the fight on this card. I think I could separate those two things because I'm going to enjoy both of those two fights for different reasons. Zhilei Zhang, I think, is the true, and this is an overused term, but this applies to Zhilei Zhang. He is the boogeyman in the heavyweight division.
So
He's the
good.
guy that I don't think anyone should want to see. Don't care if it's Anthony Joshua. Don't care if it's Deontay Wilder. Don't care if it's Tyson Fury, Alexander Usyk. I think that he is true boogeyman in the division. You could argue that he should be undefeated because, boy, let me tell you, I remember watching
Pure
this a while
robbery,
ago.
pure robbery. There was a pure robbery that went down. And
Philip Hergovich.
I said that Deontay Wilder would knock out Joseph Parker. I think Zhang knocks out Joseph Parker in this fight. I'm going to say it right now. I'm going to take Zhilei Zhang to win by KO, TKO. That's my early prediction. And even though he's like 40 something, dude still got it. Like, he's going to walk you down. He's going to land some heavy shots and he's going to take some shots as well. Like, Zhang is arguably one of the most entertaining fighters in this division. And I don't think he gets enough credit for it.
Yeah, and here's the thing too that I really like about him. He knows, like I can feel the urgency when he fights because he's 40 years old and has had a checkered injury history. He knows that this is his window. He's never been a bigger star. He's never been a champion before recently. He knocked out Joe Joyce multiple times in order to get here. And Joe Joyce was somebody that they were pushing as another one of these British heavyweights that's going to be the champion, et cetera, et cetera. He ends up getting knocked out by Zhilei Zhang, and Joe Joyce had knocked out Joseph Parker in a very impressive performance, right? So I think we're also bordering on, hey, we're giving Joseph Parker a little bit too much credit for quote unquote figuring out Deontay Wilder, where I feel like Deontay Wilder just didn't have it. I feel like he was sort of like he was looking for the knockout shot, was uber hesitant. You know what I mean? It's like when you get older and you don't want to draw fouls anymore.
And it's also like all that mileage. Like, he was in wars with Tyson Fury, absolute
Luis
wars.
Ortiz also.
And so that's a guy that I think can step into the ring and almost beat anybody at any given moment. I think
Zhang
Ortiz
currently reminds me of how I felt about Luis Ortiz around Luis Ortiz's peak.
except for there's times where Luis Ortiz now where I'm like, oh, dude, just retire. Like, he's such a warrior where I'm just like, oh, I can't. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, I can't see you fight like that. But this is going to be an interesting card going down March 8th. And let us know in the comments below how you feel about this fight, who you're going to roll with, and if you're more hype about the undercard than, of course, the main event, like myself. Also follow us at TheMandatory TKO and hit that like and subscribe button if you like the content. We got to move on.